lesson is about exponents. The laws of exponents that you should know, hopefully are familiar with, but we'll review them as well, is one is called the product of powers. So basically, if you have the same bases, like we do here, a to the m being multiplied by a to the n, we've got the same bases. If the bases are the same, all you need to do is add the exponents. So x to the second times x to the third is really just x to the fifth. And again, another reason why you should know this is because x squared has 2 x's. X cubed has 3 x's. Well, the total of all the x's there are x to the fifth. When you have a power of a power, so you've got one base raised to 2 different exponents, the rule for a power to a power is to multiply your exponents. So x to the fourth raised to the third power is just x to the 4 times 3, or x to the 12th. When in doubt, you can always write this out. And what I tend to do sometimes is I say, well, I've got x to the fourth 3 times, and then it puts you back to the product of the powers where you add the exponents, and 4 plus 4 plus 4 is just 12. When you have a power of a product, so you've got 2 different bases all being raised to the same power, it's just like the distributive property because you're distributing in the a to the m and the b to the m. So essentially you'll distribute in the fourth power to both of those variables inside, and you end up with just x to the fourth, y to the fourth. Again, if you want to write it out, and I tend to do that a lot, is I would just say that I've got my parentheses x to the fourth, and I have it 4 times. And from that point, I can see that I've got really 4 x's and 4 y's, or x to the fourth times x to the times y to the fourth. The next law is going to be power of a monomial. So now what's happening is you've got a couple of powers to powers here. So different bases with their own exponents in another power. It's the distributive property again. It's going to be a to the m times p and b to the n times p. So if you distribute in power to power, you get x to the 2 times 4, x to the 8th, and y to the 3 times 4, or y to the 12th. Once again, you can always write this out the long way. I like to say, when in doubt, write it out. And if you were to write this out, I've got 4 parentheses, and in each parenthesis is x to the second y cubed. And when I write all that out, I can go back to my very first law, which says if I add up all the exponents for the x's, I'm going to get a total of 8. And if I add up all the exponents for the y, I'm going to get a total of 12. So x to the 8th, y to the 12th. When you start simplifying expressions here, you need to understand that if you've got coefficients or numbers that are attached to variables, treat them as you would any other number. So I've got 3a to the 6th times 1 a to the 8th. Well, 3 times 1 is just 3, and a to the 6th times a to the 8th, bases are the same. Add your exponents, and you're done. On the second problem, again, don't let it bother you that you've got numbers and fractions. Just understand that you're really saying, well, I know I have to do 8 times negative a half. Well, 1/2 of 8 is 4, but it's going to be negative. And then if I look at my variables, I've got 1 x to the first power, x to the second power. So if I combine those guys together, I really have x to the third power. And then in terms of the y's, I've got a power of 3 and a power of 2. I'm going to add those up for a power of 5, and your final answer becomes -4, x to the third, y to the fifth. Next example. Here's where you can do the shortcut, or you can write it out. I like to write things out. I'm going to do that first. I know that I have to have my outside parenthesis, or my outside exponent is 2, so I'm going to write 2 parentheses. Inside each parenthesis is 6b to the 4th y, 6b to the 4th y. And I know that when I multiply, 6 times 6 is 36. b to the 4th twice is b4 plus b4, or b8. And then I've got basically y to the firsts, and that becomes y squared. So I like to write my things out. However, if you want to go for the shortcut, that's fine, but just remember that 6 squared is just 36. b to the 4th squared is b to the 8th. Y to the first squared is y squared. The answer is the same either way. I think you make less careless mistakes if you write it out than if you try the shortcut. Again, you choose what you want to do. Next one, I will write this out the long way as well. My outside exponent is 3. There are 3 parentheses. In each, 1/3 x squared y squared. Don't let the fraction fool you. You know how to multiply fractions. 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3. Top, top, top is 1. Bottom, bottom, bottom is 27. So we've got 1/27th. And then I have x total amount. And it's going to be 246. And y, whoopsie, y to the 6th as well. Y to the 6th. And there's your final answer on that one. Okay. Some people might write it a little bit differently. And if you'd write it differently, all you would do in this case is you'd have on the top, you'd have 1 x to the 6th. I keep doing that. Y to the 6th over 27. They both mean the same. All right, so that's it for your laws of exponents. You've got your homework that's attached as well, so you can get started on that.